Hello lovely people, it's Nicola back in the Stitches and Slapdashery sewing room. Had a little bit of a change around in here. My sewing table has now moved so that I have got my yarn and fabric cubbies behind me when I'm sitting here talking to you. So I still have my overhead ring light, but I also have my other ring light on the other side of the table. There's plenty of room there now. When I had it up against the wall right in front of the window, there was nowhere to put the ring light on the tripod. So I'll just stand up and do a little 360. So this is the prettier side of things, right? So where all the fabric and yarn is. And then we've got the messy closet area. I'm hoping Mr. Stitch is going to put me some shelving in here. I already have short shelves, but I need them to go all the way along because my denim and batting is piled up messily in there. And then we've got the usual bookcase and everything over there, my dress forms. And my armchair is now over by the window in that corner. I need to fancy up that corner a bit, I think. And then those two drawer units are down there instead of over there. And my sewing table is, as usual, pretty messy. There's a sneak peek of what I've been doing this afternoon, which you'll see if you keep watching this video. You may be wondering what you're looking at right now. What you're seeing is a stain left by a tea bag. I cannot remember where I've seen this, but on Instagram there's been a person who has been taking their tea bag, squeezing it out from their tea, and then placing it on the paper and letting it dry. So I did that in my little mini sketchbook, and I put a piece of plastic, this old Ziploc bag, behind so it didn't soak through to the page behind. So when it's dry, what she does is she tries to see what she can make of it. And so it's a bit like an ink blot, right? You look and you see what you can make of the picture, and you don't have to look at it that way up. You can look at it any way up, really. What I saw was an owl. Now, my drawing is not very good, but I think I might be able to make an owl out of this, because I'm seeing a wing here and the sort of ear feathers. I know they're not ears, but ear feathers, and the body. So I feel like this is the wing here. And this is the tail feather. Now, I'm not sure how to do its feet, but we'll worry about that afterwards. And so here we have the head. And the side of its face. And then somewhere in here, let me think about these proportions. Somewhere in here, there's going to be a beak. Not sure. Got to leave room for some large eyes, don't I? Down here. So the beak would be here. Maybe add a little bit around where its head would be. And then just go down into the chest feathers. Maybe do some little tufts at the top there. Okay, before I do any pen, I should probably think about the feet. Let's just do maybe 1 foot and then a branch. As I said, I'm not very good at drawing. That is what I saw. So let's just outline it with a permanent pen, and it's really dry. Hang on a minute. Maybe extend the tail, the wing, I mean, a little bit. Okay, those eyes are making it look a little cartoonish, but never mind. There we are, my first Teabag drawing. What do you think? Would you try that? It's kind of fun, and it certainly doesn't take long. One of the things I want to play with today is these corks I got from some fizzy fruit juice we bought over Christmas. And of course, I want to turn them into toadstools. I'm not sure how cork takes acrylic, so I'm going to start with a layer of gesso and then maybe hope that that works as a good base coat. I'm also trying to think how I'm going to hold these while I'm painting them. I think I could do with a pin or something. I'm going to have a little think about that. All right, I came up with a rather amusing idea. I have 4 of my old pins stuck into the base of each cork, so that when it gets to the point where I can't hold the cork, I can hold it by a pin and then put it down to dry without it touching the paper. Yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect. But that will be fun. All right. Let me see. Should I be using a palette? I don't know if I need a palette. It's quite thick and goopy, this stuff, so maybe I will. I think that's going to be far too much. Put some back in the bottle. There. That looks like it's going to work. So as you may know, I'm pretty obsessed with toadstools these days. I have crocheted ones, and one's made of buttons, and one made of paper, and some made of fabric and cinnamon sticks. And so now that I've got these 2 corks, I definitely want to make 2 more out of this. And then I've been also looking at Pinterest. I don't go on Pinterest very much. I went for maybe 5 years. Whoopsie, got paint on me. I went for maybe 5 years without looking at Pinterest because it got so full of ads, I got tired of it. But I had a look last night for crafts with toadstools, and I pinned a bunch of things to a new board called, I think, Toadstools and Mushrooms. And there were some lovely ideas, some really cute fabric mushrooms, some denim ones. Oh, I have just completely reorganized my sewing room, and I was reminded how much denim I have in my stash for upcycling. So I think some denim mushrooms are going to be in my future. I have no idea how long this is going to dry, but probably I won't be doing any more on this today. So the next time you see this, a day will have gone by, I expect. Honestly, when you're a crafter, anything's fair game, right? You see all this potential in stuff that people just toss away. That's why it's so hard to throw things away. And you have to curate sometimes and be a little bit selective, because it's impossible to keep everything. There just isn't space for everything. Looks like a little spacecraft with its little pin feet. There. I can just scoop up what's left in that and pop it back in its bottle. And then tomorrow I'll figure out how I'm going to paint it. And then when the acrylic paint is dry after that, I'll use some more of my Mod Podge gloss on the outside of it, which makes a nice finish. I was rooting around in my sewing room and I found this lovely cotton matting that I had dyed. I can't remember when it was. If it was last year or the year before. But here are two of the pieces that I did with RIT. I used far too much RIT. I was using it neat and not diluted, and I put way too much on. So there was a lot of waste because a lot of it rinsed back out again. But what was left is beautiful. And I thought this would make an awesome mushroom cap. And then the lighter one for the stem. So I've gone back to my dollar store placemat idea, and I've drawn around this and added a bit of a seam allowance. It's just a top of a plastic jar. And then I didn't know what to do about the stem because I want it to be 3D and I want it to be narrower at the top than it is at the bottom. So I've just sketched out this, and the idea is to do 4 of these and sew them together into a tube and hope they're not too big. I can always adjust later. I hope I'm not going to waste any of this because it's so lovely. I'm just going to cut around this. Doesn't matter if it's a bit of a rough circle because I'm sure mushrooms are not perfectly round. And also when my hand sewing has been done, it will be a little bumpy around the edges probably. Try to avoid drawing on the actual batting here. Then I'm going to need a second one for the underneath. What I could do is do a different shade of my dyed batting for the underneath, but I'm not. You know what? I think I will. I'll use this for my cap, the top, and I think I'll use the back, which is lighter, for the underneath. So if this is the right side and this is the right side, I'll put them right sides together to cut around them so they'll match up when I'm sewing them. I feel like this is a practice run for a denim one too, because I'm not sure how to make them. Unfortunately, I went back to Pinterest and I looked at one of the things I had saved, and you click through to where it's supposedly being hosted, the information on how to make it. And there's so many pop-up ads, you can't see any of the information. It's just ridiculous. So I gave up on that very quickly. Right, trying to keep things tidy around here. Clear things away as soon as I'm finished with them. There's my 2 round pieces. Again, this is going to be pretty rough and ready. My stuffing at the ready. Don't need that pen anymore. I have a needle and thread. I think I'll do what I did the last time I made mushrooms. I tried doing a back stitch once on one of them, and it was too wobbly and gappy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a running stitch all the way around, and then I will carry on round a second time, filling in the gaps in my running stitch. Well, I went round twice and I have about an inch of thread left, so I think you call that winning at thread chicken for sure. Now, I just realised I went all the way around and didn't leave a gap for turning, and I thought I had made a mistake. But then I remembered that the last time I made fabric mushrooms, I sewed all the way around and I made a little cut for the bottom to turn it through, because then I stuck a cinnamon stick. After I'd put my padding in, my stuffing, I had put a cinnamon stick up through that little hole and then glued it round. So now I just need to make sure that if I make a slit in this, it's not the wrong side. So if I turn this around, then this is going to be my top because the dark side is under here. So this is going to be my light side on the outside, so I can snip there. Okay, cross fingers I got that right. I just want to make a little cut. Let's get the decent scissors. Hold on a minute. Make a little cross-shaped cut and then pull it through. Keep that hole as small as possible. I wasn't thinking of using any glue for this one, so I may end up having to sew the stem to the cap. This is one of those things where I am figuring it out as I go. This batting is quite nice and soft to handle, but it makes my hands feel dry, so I had to put hand lotion on. There, I have a mushroom cap. So now I just have to figure this one out. I really hope this is going to work. I think with these, I'll whip stitch. I did allow enough for a seam allowance, though. Ew. But you know what I could do? I just realized I might only use 3 of these. Make more of a triangular thing. Okay, let's just start. I'm just going to start by whip stitching, and I will want to turn it through afterwards. I don't mind which side of this turns out on the right or wrong side. Okay. Just going to run with it. Got an insanely long thread, so I don't have to run out and cut another piece, hopefully, for a long time. Well, there's my 3 seams done. I didn't use the 4th piece in the end. I'm not averse to using it with the seams on the outside, but I'm going to see if I can turn it inside out, and if that looks better. Still see my stitching because it wasn't very tight or close together. It's a very large stem for my mushroom, but I can't really trim anything because then my stitching will come undone. I can do a little bit. Actually, I can trim a little bit of it off, but what I think I am intending to do, was to gather up the bottom after it's stuffed. So it doesn't have to be that tidy. All right, let's get some more thread on my needle for that. Time for some filling. How puffy of a mushroom do I want? I think that's enough of that. I'm going to cinch the top of this together. A few running stitches just so that my stuffing doesn't pop out of the top, and I'm filling it from the bottom. because this part is going to be hidden inside the cap of the mushroom somehow. All right, time for this now. Where did that pencil go? There it is. Help push it all up to the end. Oop, that just came right out the end. Doesn't need to be too fat. I'm not really expecting this to be able to stand up on its own. I did consider putting some wire in the stem, but I don't think I'm going to. I can always save that idea for a future mushroom, can't I? Okay, I think I'm going to leave that last bit unstuffed because I'm going to be turning the raw edges as they are inside as I sew around. So what I'll do is I'll fold this down. Need a larger knot. My knots are pulling through the batting sometimes because it's such a loose weave. All right, let's try that again. Okay, so hem it down, do a little running stitch, maybe be a little bit more consistent and conscientious with my little stitches. Ah, caught on the top. Mushrooms often have a fatter, rounder part on the base, don't they? It's fighting me a little bit here, and I'm getting my hand all tangled in the thread. So I'm just going to fasten it off, and then I'll probably have to close it up a bit more. Or maybe not. No, maybe that'll do. That'll do. I could do some stitches across, but then it would just look really messy. So I think we're just going to leave it at that. Do another knot. So I think that's going to work. Stitching's pretty rough, but it's holding together. Yep, can't see any stuffing. And now I want this to go inside of here, and I think we're going to stick with the no glue mushroom because I think it'll be kind of nice to have it sewn in. I think I might go with a longer piece of thread again. I don't think pinning is really an option at this point, so I am going to just wing it. Let's see, if I start at one of these little V-shaped bits here, and there's more fabric for me to grab. And there we go again, another knot. Ah, there we are. I don't think one pass around is going to be strong enough. I can always go around a second time. Sometimes it's easier to take a few stitches and then just tighten up everything like this. Boom. I think I am going to go around a second time because it's looking a little holy just there. I wonder if it needs something on its lid, some other embellishment. Not sure if I've got anything suitable. I have buttons. That might do it. Or I could do embroidery. I think what I will do is once I have finished sewing this together, I will put it aside for the day. And I will look at it again in the morning and decide if it needs something extra. There's the darker greeny, pinky, purpley fabric, and then the lighter version of it on the underneath, and then the lighter fabric for the stem. I suppose if you stitched something a lot more sturdy, maybe with machine stitching, you could give that to a child as a toy. That would be fun, wouldn't it? But this is definitely going to be a decorative item only. It's a little grey today, but we seem to have made it out between the showers. It's not very cold at all. More like Vancouver weather than central Okanagan. And it's Sunday. It's a very grey, wet day. So I'm going to spend a little time in here today before we go out and have our walk. I need to add to my cork mushrooms. But first I'll show you, I have another tea bag art thing started. I have Yorkshire tea at least twice a day, so that's a lot of opportunities for tea bag art, isn't it? So we'll see how that one turns out another time. The other thing I wanted to mention, now some of you may know I've been doing a fitness program, a self-inflicted fitness program for about 6 months now. And if I'm completing my 3 workouts a week, I reward myself with a ball of yarn. Well, I was up to about 8 balls of yarn in credit with no sign of having any particular plans to buy more for anything in particular. So the other day, I decided I wanted more of these Speedball block printing inks. I have 3. I have a lime green, a fuchsia, and a turquoise. And I have a very small gel plate, Speedball one, and a pad of printing paper, which I don't think is totally essential. I think you could probably use any decently heavy paper to print on. And I felt like I needed more colours so that I could do some more adventuring with it, having seen quite a lot of inspiring videos on YouTube. Well, they're $12.99 a tube at Michael's. And on the weekend, over the weekend, like Friday through today, there was a 40% coupon for one item, which is better than my staff discount. So on Friday, before I left work, I picked up this violet one. And I'm going to count that as one of my reward weeks. So instead of buying that in addition to yarn, this is coming off my yarn credit. And I think every week I might add a few more colours to my palette of those, and then I can have more playtime with them. So what I want to do this morning is just add some paint to these guys. Where are they? Here they are. I need to tackle the painting of the acrylic this morning so that I can then leave it to dry over the course of the day, and then maybe tonight I can put the Mod Podge on. I need to find a brown. There's an espresso here, but I feel like I've got a different brown in here somewhere. Maybe not. No, maybe I don't. Oh wait, I do. So I have an espresso brown and a golden brown. So I think I'm going to put maybe a little bit of golden brown and white and grey, and try and just put a teeny tiny blob of each onto my palette so that I've got a taupe for my mushroom stems. Try and just do the tiniest blob ever. Come on. I know you're in there. And I'll need the white again for my toadstool dots. So let's put a dot of it into another dip there. And I'll also need my red. Again, I'm going to try and be really, really parsimonious with that paint because this is a very small project. Oh boy, which one do I want? Maybe this one, and for the dots I need something really small. Okay. I think I better do the red first. Yeah, the gesso coated that pretty well. Going to have an interesting shape to it, this mushroom. There's nothing to disguise the fact that it's a cork. I have to try and get my brush into the dips as well, where the wire was digging into it. Yeah, I guess it was what you'd call poor man's champagne, or non-alcoholic champagne is what we had. It was like there was an apple, sparkling apple, and there was something else. I can't remember now. Apple raspberry, maybe. There we go. That covered it pretty well. Do I have enough for the other one? No, I don't. I'm going to need more red. Why I'm croaking, I have had plenty of liquid this morning. I decided I should get back to my habit of having lemon water in the mornings. We have a Berkey filter for our drinking water, and even though it comes out of the tap and it goes to the top of the Berkey and sits in there for quite some time before we drink it all, it's still too cold. Nothing ever prepares you for how cold the tap water is in the winter in Canada. So I found that when I'm having my first glass of water of the day, it hurts my teeth. So this morning, after I had heated the water in the kettle for my tea, I put half cold, half hot water in my glass with half of a lemon, juice of half of a lemon. Oh my goodness, it's so much nicer, and I drink more that way. So anything that makes you drink more water is a good thing, right? I don't want the red to go all the way under the lip of the cork, stopping right at that bottom edge of that bulge there. Now here we are at a point where my microphone has died and I was unaware for about 9 minutes. So I carried on painting away, blissfully unaware. I'm doing the mushroom coloured stem on my mushroom cork there. Or is it cork mushroom? So I've speeded this bit up and I thought I'd just add a voiceover so that I could just give you a hint of what I was talking about while I was painting away. One of the things I mentioned was the horrendous weather we've seen in Australia this week on the YouTube news videos coming out of Australia and how they've had horrendous wildfires and damage and destruction and loss of life there. So, for anyone who's living in Australia, I feel for you. I know what it's like to have wildfires and smoky air and the fear that goes with it. And then, of course, in another part of Australia, there's been a humongous flood as well. So it just seems like Mother Nature is throwing everything she can at them right now. There's my white dots, which I'm trying not to make too perfectly round this time. It was a little early because the red paint wasn't entirely dry. So I did have to wipe my brush at least once because my dots were in danger of looking pink rather than white. Having those pins stuck into the bottom was a really good idea, so I didn't get too messy. Now in a second you'll see I realised that my microphone isn't working, and now we'll be back to having some sound again. I just looked down at my microphone to check it was still on, and it was not. So after much cursing, I've replaced it for a different one, and I have no idea how much of my waffling on you have missed. So there may be a big chunk of this that I need to edit out. I might be able to do a voiceover for it maybe when I'm editing. So I'll show you what the progress is so far. Here we are. We have red mushroom top with some white spots and mushroom coloured stems on each one. And I'm going to leave those to dry while we are doing other things today. And then I will Mod Podge them later. It's a little later in the afternoon. We've had a nice long walk, 7,000 steps in today, and a nice long sit at the tea shop, enjoying some delicious tea. And I caved and I treated myself to one of their date squares today because they are heavenly. They are huge, and I could probably have eaten half of it and saved half for later, but I ate it all because it was just delicious. So now I am happily ensconced. That's the word I'm looking for. I'm happily ensconced back in my sewing room. And I'm not going to bother with lunch because I am still full of date square and tea. I'm going to Mod Podge my mushrooms. Since I made that batting mushroom yesterday, I am feeling rather inspired to do an embroidered denim one. I think that would be beautiful. So I think I am going to have to cut the fabric, or maybe I don't know whether to cut the circle out and then embroider it, or cut a larger piece and just trace the circle to give me a guideline, and then cut it afterwards. I'll have to think about what works out easier. Totally a word, easilier, right? This Mod Podge has a funny smell to it. I say that every time, don't I? But it does. I suppose it's really just kind of a glue smell, but slightly different. All right, now I'm going to have to hold it by the pins because I need to do the stem. But thankfully we didn't get rained on. It was very grey out there and very damp. Very much. I think I said in the clip that it felt like Vancouver weather, but also coastal weather. Just like the island I grew up on. On or in, depending on how you look at it. Yeah, this is not working out that great because it's moving around like mad. I do like the way the Mod Podge gives it a nice, slightly glossy finish. Not super shiny, but just enough to make it look finished off. I know they do a matte one too. This is the only Mod Podge product I've ever tried, and I've been very happy with it. I think I got all the bits. And even if it's not particularly even, it does seem to dry well and make a nice result. So here we are. Apart from drying, they are done. I put a few of my Christmas bits and pieces away yesterday. Just cleared some shelves off upstairs. I think at some point soon I'm going to have to take the garlands off the windowsills because the pine needles, if I disturb those pine needle garlands that I made, where I wrap them around the light strings, I think the needles are just going to go whoop, just all fall off as soon as I touch them, because they must be pretty dry by now. But I do like the idea of leaving some extra lights up during January, which is still quite a dim and dark month, isn't it? And it's nice to have the extra light. It's very pretty. Got to make sure you clean this stuff off your brush as well, otherwise it's going to dry hard and probably never come off again. I think we'll finish this video up here. I made a tea bag art piece. Tea bag art sounds so funny, doesn't it? And a soft and squishy mushroom. And I think probably next time you might see me working on a denim version of this. And my 2 little cork mushrooms. So that was fun. So I hope you have enjoyed your weekend and you're looking forward to a fun week ahead. Make sure to get some crafty time in, and I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.